We didn't even have to remind you.
All right. So first painting I've pulled up, I actually pulled this up, Kate, with you in mind. This was a painting that we started as the black and white a couple weeks ago. My very shiny reference here. Photo I took on a very early morning bike ride. Very tonalistic, even just from the photo. But the reason I pulled this up was just to show again the warmth in the backlit foliage and the grasses and cattails in there. So basically this painting's getting close to finished. What I would do here is I wanted to make this, the brights, a little brighter through here, the sun and then the reflection of the sun. I would also like to maybe even warm up the edges of the trees that are closest, kind of getting blasted by that warm, bright light a little bit more. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly do that while we're kind of getting started here. My colors today are a little bit different because I actually have a transparent yellow, which is the Hansa yellow medium. And I've got a cadmium yellow as well, so a more opaque yellow. So I don't normally have 3 yellows up here. And in fact, I even have golden ochre up here as well, because these are just the colors I've been using the last couple of days as I've been painting. So I'll just run through the colors real quick. I've got my titanium white, which is what I'm going to use to lighten my color here. I've got the cad yellow, which is again more opaque and will have better coverage if I want to actually cover areas. And then my more transparent Hansa yellow medium, my Indian yellow, which is very, very transparent, very warm, appears orange, but turns quite yellow. My warm red today is actually a Naphthol Scarlet. The reason I chose that over the cadmium red medium for today is because it's quite transparent. It's a semi-transparent versus where a cadmium red medium would be very opaque. My quinacridone red, which is my cooler, more purpley red, again, very transparent. It's a lot of times the only red I'm having on my palette lately. I'm finding it easier to harmonize my colors with just one red. That may be very temporary. That's kind of a new thing. But I am finding that the quinacridone red can get really quite warm.
So Hansa yellow medium is transparent, but Hansa yellow light is not?
No, they both are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're both considered semi-transparent. So just if I was going to be glazing with more of a cooler yellow versus the really warm Indian yellow.
Okay.
Yeah, so no, all the Hansa colors are semi-transparent as far as I know. Anyways, so yeah, the quinacridone red, again, I've found that I can get it to go, I've got a little white in my brush, it's going to go a little bit pink, but by adding the Hansa yellow or the cadmium yellow, I found that I can get it to really read as a very warm red. So again, I've just found that way I get more harmony versus having multiple colors that are mixing in different ways.
But wait, what were you saying then about the naphthol red?
I grabbed it because it's more transparent than the cadmium red.
Oh, right. Oh, okay, so you're replacing the cadmium with that, not the quinacridone.
Yeah, exactly. But I can get that Hansa or the quinacridone red to go really quite warm. So yeah, I've just found it's easier to harmonize my colors when I don't have multiple reds, which kind of interesting, but we'll see where that goes. That's just, everything's always in flux. I'm always learning and experimenting and trying different things. So, but yeah, when I put it beside that other warm red there, you can see how close they got.
And then you've got ultramarine blue and
Ultramarine.
then is that manganese? And then you've got the phthalo.
Yeah, so the scary color of the day is the phthalo blue or phthalo turquoise. And it says mixture underneath that. It says phthalo turquoise mixture. I guess it means they just didn't use a single color to make it. And it is transparent. So the next painting I'm going to pull up, we're going to actually glaze. So hold on for that one. That's going to be exciting because I've never actually glazed fully with the phthalo turquoise. But I kind of want to make my grass scene very dramatic. Going down the side, I've got transparent yellow oxide, which is a really beautiful color for glazing and stuff. It's, you know, a little more yellowy than the earth red would be. This is the gold ochre, which like a yellow ochre, but it's transparent, where a yellow ochre is very opaque. And I'm really liking the gold ochre for different things, especially coming down into the grasses in the foreground and stuff. I wanted to make some kind of dirty greens and stuff. It really makes beautiful off colors. And then again, Payne's gray. I'm using Gamblin's really inexpensive 1980 Payne's gray. The reason I actually like it is because of its transparency. It's really quite transparent. Most of all of the 1980 colors are more transparent than their other tubes. So kind of works for the work I like to do.
Is the phthalo turquoise also Gamblin?
Yeah, all the colors I've got out today are Gamblin colors.
Okay.
You're a gambling man.
Gamblin man.
And very transparent.
Yeah, that's right. Transparent about it. So I've got some of this warm red. Let's go ahead and use some of that quinacridone red that I just mixed with the Hansa yellow. And you guys are seeing the painting. I'm just trying to make sure that it's in there all right. And I'm just going to kind of scumble. This is nice and dry now. It's been drying for over a week. And I'm just going to put a little bit of really thin, kind of transparent, warm reds kind of on the edges of things. And you'll see I'm going to let it kind of bleed out. Take it a little higher over here, as if these trees are a little more. I'm going to bring it down the edge just a little bit.
So when you say glazing, you don't use glazing medium,
I
right?
really do, but this isn't really glazing. This is almost more like scumbling, because you're going to see what I'm going to do is I'm just adding little bits of this color, and then I'm going to come through and I'm going to brush that out.
Michael, at this point, are you putting that over acrylic? I can't remember.
No, this painting is completely covered in oils now. So you
It
can
is, okay.
put it on there. It looks like bad lipstick job. It's, you know, all over the place. It's way too strong. So I'm just going to take my paper towel. Because this oil painting is so dry, I can simply come back in with a clean towel, or I can do it with a brush. And I'm just going to take most of that paint off so that it's just kind of hugging those edges a little bit, kind of warming up. I'm going to bring this red down like it's kind of getting into that fog down there.
Those are both transparent colors that you mix together, but they don't look very transparent. I don't know.
Well, as I wipe them away, they get more transparent. With almost any of the transparent colors, when you put them on thickly, you know, they're not very transparent.
Yeah, and you didn't use any medium or anything with it, so.
No, I did not. No, it's just nice and dry. Again, kind of a scumbling effect. Just kind of warming those edges. Kind of, I'm going to really play up the fact that the sun is up here. And maybe I'll even wipe it down. I really want it to be there, but fairly subtle. There we go. We just kind of kissed the edges a little bit, kind of yeah, just kind of it's very soft back there. All the air back there is, you know, it's pretty dense atmosphere back here. So really diffused light. I'm gonna bring a little bit of that into the reflections. It's gonna even be more subtle. So I don't really know if this would be considered glazing. It's more like, again, like scumbling. I'm just kind of putting it on and taking it off and letting just kind of be hinted at back there. Again, but your painting has to be very dry. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean that brush really well because I don't want any of this red going into where I'm gonna add the highlight. I know this may appear a little bit washed out right now in there. So we'll see if we can even see me putting in a lighter light on a little bit warmer. So I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow to my white. And this is going to be very opaque, meaning, you know, it's just, I'm putting it on pretty thick. I'm going to make sure that it lines up with the middle of this, because it does appear that my sun is shifted a little bit to the right. So I'm going to take this straight up and down. In fact, it's so important that I will grab a T-square and make sure I kind of want it right there. Up here would be the reflection line. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a mark, make sure I am in the right spot. So I'm going halfway in between the highlight, which is there, bringing my T-square so that I'm going to be able to aim it. And let's bring our sun in. So just remembering that that's kind of the middle. Are you able to see that at all? The lighter sun, or is it too washed out up there?
Washed out for me.
Okay. Maybe you'll be able to see it a little better in the reflections.
It's just kind of glary.
Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, I could turn the light off and then you could probably see it. A
Oh yeah, now we see it.
Yep.
little hard for me to see, but
Then put the light back on.
Yeah.
and I'm just gonna kind of bring that again. And I want this sun up here. There's so much atmosphere. It's going to be very diffused anyways. I'm just going to bring that. It's going to wrap. I can paint around these cattails, or I could just paint over them and then bring those cattails back out a little bit, either with a kind of a Q-tip or just by painting them back in nice and warm. And then as I get towards the edges of these reflections, I would actually probably add a little more yellow, a little more color. Back into that.
So are you going to make those cattails kind of red?
Yeah, do they not appear pretty red?
Well, it's hard to tell because of photographs and
Sure.
monitors and everything.
Yeah.
Down below in the grasses, it looks, you can see the red, but not those two specifically.
Okay, yeah, and that's probably because they're against warm colors. So I'll probably actually have to make them even redder, wouldn't I? So that's good information. So I get to keep coming in and keep coloring them, and that will allow me to kind of cover it. So I'm not just painting so specifically right around them, which can be kind of tricky, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and add a little yellow to the edges. I'm going to let it get even a touch orangey yellow. Ooh, too much. All right, so that hopefully is kind of warming everything up, making that reflection a little more interesting. And I'll come back in later and kind of finesse everything. But let's go ahead and warm up those cattails even a little more than they are. Let's see if we can get them so that you guys can see them on your monitors. All my brushes have paint thinner in them because I cleaned them all right before class. I'm just going to go ahead and grab a dry one out of there. Just softening the edges. And it's pretty subtle, but just having a little bit warmer edges around the highlights makes things just read a little bit better. And a lot of times your color and your reflections comes right on the edge of the extreme kind of blasted out part of the reflection. All right, so I've kind of painted over, and a couple of the brush strokes are really a lot bigger than I want, especially in this glare, this reflection up high there. So I'm just going to grab a couple Q-tips and remove some of that so that it's not so strong. I love using Q-tips to kind of help sculpt more delicate areas. And again, because these cattails are nice and dry, I can come back in and wipe the paint back off there where I need to.
Michael, I just looked up the dates of your cloud, trees, and water class, and it is April the 13th through May the 25th.
Thank you so much. Yes, so you can sign up for that, I believe, already at the OSA website. Would love to have as many of you guys join me on there. Should be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to teach it. So thanks for the idea. All right, let's go ahead and warm up those cattails. So again, I just went over there and stole one of my daughter's little watercolor brushes. They're so nice for the grasses, you know, and doing more drawing stuff. So let's use some of this really nice warm red I just mixed, and I'm gonna lighten and brighten it up a little bit. Let's see how crazy I can get with that here.
So watercolor brushes, watercolor and oils, you can use the same brush. What about acrylics and oils?
I mean, you're not supposed to use the same brush, but so this will become an oil brush now. But you can tell it's a watercolor brush for one, because let me put all this stuff down. Look at the handle of a watercolor brush and the handle of an oil painting brush. Watercolor brushes generally have very short handles. So when you're at the art store and trying to figure out what kind of brush you're looking at, as a general rule for acrylics and oils, you want a longer handle. Not always. There are some short-handled brushes, and there are some painters that like short handles. I don't know if they feel like they get more control with it, you know, but you can get up there and really hug the front of it.
So if you're going to clean your brushes real well, why can't you use it for both watercolor and oil? What?
You probably can. And I do go back and forth, especially with between acrylics and But most of the times when I'm doing my acrylic paintings, I'm using really beat up old oil painting brushes.
Are you trying to get just sort of around the edge of those cattails, or are you painting the whole body of the cattail?
They're so thin and delicate that they would just kind of get blasted out by the light. So those are the ones that are right in front of the reflected light. You know, they're really nice and strong and warm. And then very quickly, as we get away from that, they get cooler. So anyways, I was just hoping that it would look like as the light's coming down and behind these grasses, it really kind of gets this nice feeling of glow. I could play that up even a little bit down in below if I want to keep warming up some of these. You know, I can do as much or as little as I want.
You kind of have them evenly spaced there around that reflection.
Yeah, I should probably bring some kind of.
Maybe we could watch you paint one. I'm just kidding.
That's all right. It's kind of what I'm doing. I am kind of just adding a couple more right now. I'm trying to figure out how to break up the space a little bit more interestingly. But yeah, it's nice going back when your painting is really quite dry. You can paint right over the top, both with transparent color to change the temperature and the color slightly, or like I'm doing now, it's more opaque. And I'm just kind of coming in and covering up certain areas with a new, warmer color. But I can do the same thing in here in reverse, as I can go back in, just grabbing a new brush. And I can get into the cools if I wanted. I could bring in some greens. I don't want to do too much because I kind of like the monochromatic, kind of more tonalist feel of this piece. But maybe I could get in some cool green grays.
Laura, I see some cattails in your future. Sort of similar to your beautiful work with your trees.
I definitely have to shop for some watercolor brushes. I thought I had one or two, but not like that.
Yeah, the nice thing is that, you know, you can make that tip.
Yeah, the little tip and then the fat body carrying some juice that you can just press down on.
Yeah, and I can make it, you know, I don't know if you'll be able to see this very well. Maybe I'll lighten it up a little more so you can actually see down into this. Oops, keep getting it dark. Keep chickening out. I can come in and if I push a little bit, or if and then as I lift, it can get really fine. So we're able to kind of see, you know, you can make these different marks. So push down and then turn and
Wow.
turn and left.
Well, I'm not heartbroken that I have to shop for more art supplies.
Always, right? Yeah, I think that's why we take art classes. To have that excuse to go get more art supplies. The teacher says, I need this color, I need this brush.
I need acrylics like I need a hole in my foot.
You know,
Everybody needs acrylics.
yeah, well,
Deb, you will like it very much compared to gouache.
I have a feeling you're right on that one, Kate.
But be careful of your brushes with acrylic. Do not let the acrylic dry on the brush even for 5 minutes.
right. Yeah, I always have a cup of water. And then
That's good to know.
that mister tool, you know, again, it's kind of a good mister costs about $10, but boy, that really saved me a lot of paint and everything else. And I even find myself misting the brushes if I do have them kind of sitting out.
I got one of those and I could not for the life of me figure out how to open it up to fill it because
Yeah.
there were no instructions on the box, and I finally had to look it up, and you have to squeeze the you have to squeeze the nozzle thingy and then twist.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
absolutely had that same issue.
I bought one too, but mine had a little instruction card inside.
You probably bought the $11 one.
Well, I don't know. It was the one on Amazon, but I didn't have to squeeze the nozzle to twist it off.
Ah.
That was interesting that you said that.
Yeah, because they have to stay very pressurized inside. So anyways, just throwing in some cool colors, kind of the ones that are hidden from the light, right? They're kind of tucked back behind this wall here so they can stay a little cooler. I could also play that up in some of the ones that are in the shadows. Again, just going back to what we talked about with Monet, right? I've got all these beautiful shadows in here that I can give a little bit of a temperature shift in there as well, away from the light. So yeah, there's so much fun stuff we can do. So anyways, that's what I wanted to show you on this one. So
Beautiful.
Yes, I love that.
a little bit of temperature shift in here, brightened up my reflections and warmed up the cattails and the grasses kind of in here, and then threw in a couple cools. And it's still, you know, this is not finished. I'll come back in. I actually want to hint at the top of some bushes and shrubs, maybe some small trees, a little bit of a bank back here. So, but I want to make sure that I keep it within the shadow family, right? Because it's away from the sun. It's being, so it'll be just a little bit brighter. So anyways, I'll be doing that before I call this painting finished. All right, now let's go all the way back to stage one. Oh, here. Wanted to show you guys one that I started in the tonalist class way back when. And just kind of show a little bit about this. So using some of the same techniques. This one gets a little bit maybe busy with lots and lots of grasses and everything else. But this one's been fun to slowly work up, bringing in little bits of blue and green to kind of accentuate the warm pinks, yellows, oranges, even some kind of warm purples. And so all my colors kind of get cooler almost, besides the rim lighting on a lot of these. So there's that one from.
Wait. What brush did you use for the tips of the grasses?
So I did use kind of a similar brush to this for some of it. I also would have used one of my chopped up brushes just to kind of make it so they're not irregular. I mean that they are irregular. I didn't want it to feel like overly thought out and planned. You know, I have a way of making my grasses look too clean. So by having that, probably not this brush, I think it was probably one with even less hairs on it. But yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and this one's probably got about 4 or 5 different glazes put in to change. I kept changing the temperatures until I was pretty happy. And yeah, it's been fun. So hopefully this one will find a new home. This one will be at that the show at Cole Gallery starting next month.
Well, wait, one more question before you go away. When you're doing that fog layer in back by the back trees, that layer of kind of mist.
Yeah.
I know it's not the same color on every painting, but is there a kind of formula? Is it gray that's kind of warm or cool, or?
Well, it really depends on how much light is coming through. So my light, it's probably a little bit hard to tell, is kind of right in this area. My lightest, even though within the sky, the whole sky is pretty light, but you can kind of see within there, it gets a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
And I played up that a little bit in the grass, behind the grasses as well, where it's reflecting down. So then from there, I know that the light is coming from behind those trees, catching the mist a little bit. So that's why the tops of the mist is a little bit warmer, and then it gets a little bit cooler. And then the mist that's, you know, and it's pretty subtle in the trees as we come forward, but those are all in shadow. So that mist is cooler a little bit. Then these mist that's hugging the edge of the water is also in shadow. So it stays a little bit cooler. Then I let some of the green kind of algae show through to create a little differentiation between the bank and the water line. Otherwise, this was just a big dark mass here.
Uh-huh.
This was also just a big dark mass. So if I go ahead and show, introducing that algae, I was having a hard time trying to figure out what to use. And then my wife and I went and took a walk over this park just right around the block from us. There's actually apartments and things here. But yeah, it's a fun little place to paint. I paint there with Brenda Boylan quite a bit and call it the frog pond because there's just lots and lots.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you using titanium white, or is this a case where you might have used transparent white?
No, it was, that was just titanium white. I don't really ever use transparent white. Again, not that I'm against it. I just don't, I've only owned one tube of it and I've never really figured out how to use it very well.
What would you be varnishing with?
I would probably just use the Gamblin Gamvar varnish.
Gambar to use matte?
Depends on which gallery it's going to, which is kind of a difficult thing. I have to use matte when I show out at my gallery at the coast, Dragonfire Gallery. Their lighting somehow makes my paintings very reflective out there, so I have to use matte. I prefer the satin, or even I like the shine because it makes the painting look fresh and all the colors really come back to life. So yeah, I generally, I guess, I prefer to buy satin. It's just kind of right in the middle. And so you kind of get the best of both worlds. It's not high shine. All right, let me clean a little bit of space because we are going to be glazing into this one. So this is.
But you don't varnish every piece, do you?
No, I try to.
Oh, okay.
By varnishing, what I do is because, when you're painting thin and thick into the same piece, you get an unequal shine in your paints, right? The darker areas that I paint more transparent want to stay more matte, which is nice for photography of the work. But I want to equalize the shine all throughout it, especially if I am using mediums, because it's hard to get your medium to be the same in all of your color mixtures. So by simply glazing once or twice, I will equalize the shine so the painting feels much more cohesive shine-wise between all the colors. All right, so this is a black and white, except for with the, you still can't really see it here too much. I don't think I have any. But I did mix a little bit of yellow ochre into my white and a little bit of burnt umber into my blacks, just to kind of warm it up so we don't get that same everything turns green when we go into glaze. This one, I want to get a little bit crazy. I'm thinking that it's going to be interesting. I want to glaze with the phthalo turquoise mixture. But I do know that it's a pretty dark color. And so I'm thinking I want to put that in here. And then I want to make the sky like it's reflecting a very kind of a pink, I mean, the water reflection, like it's reflecting a pinkish, yellowish, I guess, kind of a peachy color, my favorite color. And I just think that turquoise and peach might go really nicely together with kind of some warm quinacridone transitions. And then I also am going to let the colors be a little more vibrant as the land comes towards us. And then towards the top, I will be creating kind of the feeling like there's a little bit of fog or atmosphere back here by bringing in some of the colors that are here, mixing them into my phthalo turquoise color a little bit, plus a little bit of white. So my goal is to help the land lay back by presenting atmosphere, but then I'm going to have some kind of wild grass colors. And I'm kind of thinking like it's early morning. And yeah, so wish me luck.
Good luck.
Thank you, thank you. So I'm just going to take a little bit of paint thinner. And I'm gonna go ahead and take my quinacridone red. And I'm just going to create kind of a barrier color.
Okay, why are you creating a barrier color?
So it's kind of where my turquoise and my more yellowy colors are going to meet.
Oh, okay.
So if we, just kind of thinking ahead a little bit, hopefully. Man, it's making a nice pink already.
So this is your first oil going down on your acrylic, correct?
Is, yeah. So there we go. It's already kind of creating some dynamic color contrast, temperature contrast. All right, look at that beautiful color just by the transparency of it. Very blue, very turquoise, and add a little bit of paint thinner to that. Ah, scary. Here we go.
Yikes.
Whoa, I'm holding my breath.
Yeah, no kidding.
And since it's phthalo, it's staining, isn't it?
Oh, I'm sure.
We need to move it over to the left a little so we can see the whole painting. Thank you.
That's
You
pretty-
need to be wiping that off.
Yep, here we go.
Must be Kentucky, it's bluegrass.
Bluegrass, yeah. We'll see. It might be too vibrant. I might have to come back in with a different blue, or maybe I'll add greens on top. We'll see. But oh, that's really, really, really blue.
Mm.
All right, when experimenting, always experiment in front of a crowd.
Can't blame us, Michael.
But I can blame you guys for everything.
No.
They told me to use this.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was last week that you were like, use phthalo turquoise, you coward.
Oh, dear.
Okay, seriously, all joking aside, if you wanted to remove some and you put a little bit of, let's just say you put a little bit of Gamsol on a wet towel, would that work or no? That would just,
Let's do it.
no, don't. If you know that it will help, okay? I'm just saying, don't experiment.
Let's go along the top a little bit here and just see what happens, because I do want it to be more grayed down up top. So there's a little bit of Gamsol paint thinner in there. And I'm just going to kind of take it on the tops of the grasses where I don't need it to be quite as blue. I'm thinking maybe the shadows could be really nice and cool blue still. So I've wiped in the Gamsol kind of into the lighter areas of the grasses, right? You can see how much I picked up. Now I'm going to take my paper towel to the clean side, dry side, and just pick it back up. And because that Gamsol is in there kind of activating it, look at how much I can get back. And maybe that'll look nice. Maybe that little bit of hint of turquoise in it, with the turquoise being in the shadows.
It's almost like a nocturnal.
That's really what I want it to be like. The grass has not been hit by the light yet. It's only radiant light from the sky. There's no direct light on these grasses. And then the water is going to be so colorful and bright because it is reflecting the sky up above, you know, kind of at an angle.
Oh, I think it's gonna be great.
Right, yeah, go big or go home, right? Fearless painting.
That's
What
right.
size is that?
What's that?
What size is that canvas?
Oh, it's pretty big, 24 by 30 or 18 by 24. I have it written on one of the sides. Of course, it's probably underneath. 18 by 24. All right, let's scoot it over a little more here. Yeah, I actually like that gray.
I do too.
Kind of feels like a little bit like warmth.
Yeah, it does.
Isn't that funny? So just like we were talking about with colors, everything's comparative, right? So by just having gray versus blue, the gray feels warmer. Whereas if I just put yellow down in the water and left that gray, the gray would feel very cool comparatively. So you see how that barrier color, how it's working already?
Yeah,
Isn't that kind of cool?
it is.
So kind of a transition, it's like a transition color. So yeah, wiping on, and then I'm doing most of the work by wiping it back off. And just kind of looking where. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of more paint thinner to some of the tops of the grasses a little bit, where I want a little more highlight. Let me, give me 1 second.
Do you have a reference photo?
Ew.
Oh, there it is.
Here. That photo, it's all messy. There's a bunch of mud and footprints. Looks like cows have been walking down along the bank. So I didn't care about all that.
Well, at least they didn't fall in the lake.
Yeah, as far as I know, I probably wouldn't drink it.
That's what I have to practice, is leaving stuff out.
Yeah. There's an art to that, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, there's some really great quotes that it's, you know, about that. It is, you know, a good painter is how much can I take out, not how much can I put in. And that's why I'm liking these kind of more monochromatic or limited colors. Because, you know, we were talking about the Zorn palette. This isn't a Zorn palette by any stretch, but I'll still be just using one weird blue, one red, and one yellow. And I'll probably, I'm not sure what yellow I should use. Wow, that grass is actually looking pretty, like there's quite a bit of depth in there.
Well, you had such a great textural underpainting.
Right.
That really helped.
Yeah, letting that kind of play itself up a little bit.
So I don't want to add to your things to do list, but you did mention you were going to show putting in some ferns in that creek. I mean, no, in the, not the creek one, the
Forest one.
the forest one, yeah. So if you get a chance for that today, otherwise
Okay.
you have to wait till next session.
Possibly. Yeah, and do you, are you talking about this one?
No, the other one with the radiating shadows.
Yeah, and so that that acrylic glaze that I use, the transparent acrylic glaze, is still sticky. I actually
What?
went
How
to,
how can it be still sticky?
I don't know, I painted it in yesterday. I don't know if I just left it too thick or what.
What did you use for glazing? What kind of paint was it?
It
I mean,
was
did you put it in, did you put it in a medium?
no, just water.
Huh,
Oh, that's weird.
that is really weird.
And I just used the transparent yellow iron oxide
And
acrylic.
it's sticky?
Yeah,
God,
Oh,
so I've got it sitting under a fan, so hopefully we can get to that kind of towards the end of class here.
I've never heard any such thing.
yeah, usually acrylics dry so fast.
You know, my problem is usually by the time I get to the other side of the canvas, it's dry.
Yeah, that's true.
It's definitely dry, but it's sticky, so I wasn't sure what that would do to oil paints.
Yeah,
That kind of gave me the idea, well, I've got all these other paintings that are in different stages, so I can share.
you
kind of-
didn't put a Galcid coating on it or anything before you did that.
No,
did you?
no.
I wonder if it's just the character of that yellow iron oxide
I use that all the time
and
and
it's not sticky.
it's not sticky.
Hmm.
And a lot of times for other more saturated colors or darker colors, I'll mix it with like a matte glaze or something and put that on. And that that dries pretty fast too, as long as it's not too thick.
So now I'm just
Wow.
into the bigger, more open areas and adding kind of a slightly warmer yellow, slightly yellower color,
Wow.
leaving room that I could even get lighter if I wanted. I'm gonna let it get a little pinker as we get down further on the scene. And I'm leaving enough paint that I'll be able to drag it back in using, whatever brush I can just grab and take it up so I can cut into my reflected grass shapes as much or as little as I want. Let's get it. Let's test getting quite pink. Not that pink. As we get, and then I'm going to actually introduce a little bit of that turquoise color back down here into the water. Just so I have a slightly darker bottom part, and it should hopefully feel a little more harmonious. And then this color is what I'm going to bring back into the top horizon line. Top of the canvas panel.
Oh. That looks so luminous already, and we've only just started.
May have to kind of gray this color down here. We'll see. I'll have to step back and kind of judge it that way. And just like I did with the other painting, I can always bring more grasses over the top of this if I want some, more detail and whatnot. So this is kind of nice. I just got my big shapes, my big values, my big temperature shifts.
So that watercolor brush you were using for the grasses, is that synthetic or natural bristle?
Cool. I don't know. Truly, I bought a pack of these brushes where they came.
Well, I'm just looking now at these packs online, and you can get both kinds. I'm just curious to know.
I
Well,
think this is not synthetic, but hold on a
I
second.
have a feeling that with the really fine brush frying hairs you need for watercolor synthetic would make a mess with oil.
Yeah.
So thinking of ordering some cheapo naturals,
But
or I'll go by the art supply store and see what they've got an offer on
buy
the.
them all. This is only 2 of the 4 jars.
Yeah. Okay. Now I have jars of brushes too, but still my paintings don't look like yours.
Oh, these are my daughter's brushes.
Uh-huh.
This beautiful brush. Oh man. Bet I could do some cool things with that, but I think this is like one of those $25 Princeton.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You know, I did get some a set of cheap angle brushes.
oh, good. This, yeah, daggers.
They were just called angle. They're not as sharp as daggers. That angle isn't as extreme as daggers, but I'm still using them. It's like 6 months later. They're really versatile and they hold up. It's amazing.
Great. Yeah, this is my favorite type of shape, where it's really broad and putting it against the light of the really broad at the base. And with the watercolor brushes, I try to be really sure that I don't load up paint that gets into the ferrule.
Right.
That's where the damage gets done, just in case my daughter decides that I'm using her favorite brush.
And then I did have a really nice synthetic oil brush that I was happy to acquire, and I paid a pretty penny for it. And I was cleaning, I was painting, I was wiping paint off with by grabbing it with a paper towel. And I actually yanked a bunch of the bristles out of the ferrule. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
That was,
yeah.
$20 brush ruined.
Yeah, this morning I was pulling out a lot of hairs, but I always kind of think, that's a bummer to do, but also kind of better in the sink or in my hand than on the painting.
Yeah. Yeah. And then of course, then it becomes just a texturizing brush,
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, let me blend some of this up so I don't have little pink halos as strong around these grasses here. It's kind of fun when you kind of like visualize, because I don't know if you guys are like me, but when you're looking at your black and white painting or your underpainting, I can kind of scan through like all these different color options. Like in my head, I can kind of start to visualize, well, what would this do? What if I did that color? Ooh, what color would look good with that color? I remember when I was a little kid, my uncle was an architect. He actually built my parents' house. And he was telling me, or my mom was telling me, I think, talking about him, that he had this ability to visualize an entire house in his head before he started even doing the blueprints for it. And that he does the blueprints more for the clients, which, makes sense. But it was kind of interesting, like as I get more and more proficient with colors and painting and everything, that I can start to visualize ahead further, right?
Yeah.
Kind of imagine, it's not always, doesn't always come out like you imagine it completely, but that's another thing that you start acquiring as you paint more and more and more. It's just that ability to guess what's going to happen. And I was actually reading an interesting article about, humans and our brains and our ability to kind of predict, like play out different scenarios in our head was such a huge advantage. And, most animals can't really do that. They just responding in a kind of a, I don't want to say pre-programmed, but a logical way that they've evolved to do. And that we as humans have this kind of ability to look into the future, see various options, and respond, or try to pick hopefully the best one, or the one that is working best for what we want to do.
I think that was really evident when you did the black and white of those tree shadows last week, you know, that just banging out this really complex composition. Because even though you, as you demonstrated, you were saying, I'm looking at the photo and I'm going to leave this out and I'm going to add this in. It was clear that you were also like being guided by probably just a wealth of experience of putting paint on the canvas that you can only get by putting paint on the canvas.
Right. Yeah. That, I mean, you know, no matter how good of a teacher you think you are, truthfully, the only way your students really learn in the end is by putting their own brushes to their own canvases. And it's, you know, I think they call it canvas miles, or, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I believe, you know, you hear about that 10,000 hour rule.
Right.
It takes 10,000 hours to master something. And I don't really adhere to that, because I think you can always practice smarter or stupider. You know, 10,000 hours of stupid, bad practice is not going to make you a master of anything. And also I think that you can short circuit it by being very aware, right? And that's why I talked to you guys about, let's learn from our mistakes, because there's so much to learn there. You know,
There's so many mistakes you can make.
there's so many, I mean, who's to say that all of this is not a mistake, you know? And yeah, and so you just have to keep stepping back. And, you know, this class, I've talked a lot about my painting process and the mistakes I was making in my painting process. But also just, yeah, if, okay, these colors together don't look good, note to self, or they do look good, note to self. I'm gonna go ahead and scumble in some lighter color. This may be too light. We shall see. I'm gonna go ahead and pink it up towards the top, like there's a little bit of warm light that's reflecting down into here, is also kind of beginning to radiate across this field of grasses, this creaky field. So I'm gonna grab another brush, preferably a pretty firm one, and let's get to scumbling. This one's not firm enough. Maybe a little one will be better. I just want it to be like there's fog back there, or more atmosphere at least. And a touch of paint thinner, just a touch. I'm just dipping the very corner of my brush in. Grab my paper towel now and blend that around a little bit.
Did you get some pink up into that very top of the canvas, or is that the camera just doing that?
Oh yeah, I added a little bit of the pink up there. Like the warm light is kind of coming from that direction a little more. but because there's so much atmosphere, it's not traveling very far.
Hmm.
I think I could actually probably pink it up a little even more.
Yep.
So hopefully just kind of slowly creating the illusion of a little more depth by softening those edges, pushing them back. That should make these grasses more pronounced.
Think of all the places I've been to paint on plein air where you have to hike through, cow pasture with ditches running through them. And I go right past that.
See, that's
Now I'm thinking next time I'm going to stop and paint.
That's funny. Well, it's what we're attracted to. And, that's what what I like. I love that you see these things where I would like see them and just be like, holy cow. Yeah, that's so much, so busy. And so I wouldn't paint that. Or, I'm just always attracted to water. Always have been.
Yeah.
Always will be. I'd love to have a property with a creek on it, ideally with a little bit of forest and a creek, or and I did grow up with a creek on my property. In fact, I told you guys I grew up in the barn with my bedroom in the barn, not at least a couple years, and the creek was just right outside my door. Basically, I could hear it at night. We had a pond on the property, and those were all my favorite memories as a kid. We're catching frogs, catching salamanders.
And that was in Appalachia where you grew up?
What's that?
That was in Appalachia where you grew up?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Oh,
Sotaville, Oregon, which is
Oh.
outside of Lebanon, Oregon.
Oh.
But yeah. I miss living in the woods. So yeah, it's kind of coming alive a little bit. I think. What do you guys think? Does that feel like kind of an atmospheric perspective? Kind of
Yeah.
fun back there?
yeah.
It
I
does.
thought the water was too light at first, but now that you've added the atmosphere, it doesn't seem too light anymore.
So I can add even a little more right at the top, so it almost just kind of. And this is again got some of that pink in it. So I've got the blue down here. Now I'm bringing the pink up here to kind of tie in. So it doesn't just feel like green grasses in a pink pond. But this
And
is,
you used the Hansa yellow for this, right?
yes, I did. Hansa yellow, titanium white, a touch of Indian yellow, and the
Ah,
quinacridone
okay.
red are the colors that were used, and then the phthalo turquoise.
How do you like the phthalo turquoise?
I think it's basically turning out to how I wanted. What I may do is, after it dries up for a little bit, is experiment with mixing some greens with that phthalo, and maybe let it get a little lighter, and then
Yep.
I could come across just some of the areas where it's catching a little more light, and warm that up a little bit. So I just add a slight different color. But maybe not. Maybe I really like the idea of it not really, it's all just radiant light.
Do you ever use Prussian blue?
I must have used it because I have a tube that's not full, but I don't remember when I used it. I was watching a interview between Charlie Hunter and C.W. Mundy, who's a really great painter. Both those guys are awesome. And CW Monday was talking about his new color palette being the Naphthol Scarlet, Prussian Blue, and I'm not sure, maybe titanium, or maybe it was cadmium yellow medium and white, and he was just really singing its praises. But I don't know. I've never tried it. And yeah, Prussian, I think, but Prussian could be really beautiful into the shadows and stuff here. I could also,
Well, on my screen, this looks a lot like Prussian blue. Looks less like phthalo, but I'm sure in real life it's probably very
well, it's a
phthalo.
phthalo turquoise, so it's definitely different than phthalo.
Mm.
Isn't Prussian blue a mixture of blues?
I don't really know much about
No, actually, well, I guess some formulators might make it that way, but the one I have, I think it's Graham, and it's just aluminum hydroxide or some weird. It's an element. Oh, I think it might be ferrocyanide.
Oh, okay.
So don't cook it.
Just clearing off a little area here. I want to see what happens when I mix phthalo turquoise with quinacridone red. I want to see what kind of a dark that makes.
It just sounds beautiful, just saying it.
Yeah, it's gonna be purple.
Well, but it's like,
But it's a deep purple.
Yeah,
turquoise leans towards green.
Yeah.
Bring that over so we can see it. Look how dark it is.
yeah.
It almost,
It looks like black.
it almost does the chromatic black thing, like that phthalo green
Yeah.
quinacridone would.
Well, I think isn't that how they make chromatic black? It's
Yeah,
it's just two colors. It's a green phthalo and a quinacridone red, I think.
correct.
Sort of looks like the eggplant color.
Oh,
Woo!
but now look, it looks very blue.
Or purpley blue.
Huh.
Periwinkle.
Yeah,
Add a little bit more of the quin red.
yeah, let's see what happens with more red.
It's so hard to tell on the screen.
Yeah, it is.
But I was just thinking, like, because I have those colors in this painting, what if I, instead of going to green on top of the grasses, brought up the tops of some of the grasses with, purples or blues instead.
Hmm.
That might be a fun way, or maybe I could bring, ooh, the purple really plays nicely. Which would make
Now
sense.
with that pink.
Yeah,
If you-
that purple's so pretty.
That may be what I do is some purples, because it really plays nicely with the pink that's kind of coming in here, and it makes sense, right? That it-
Mhm. Hmm.
So fun.
Yes.
I mean, this is not something I would really make time to do, of thinking up all these things, but then you set up a different challenge, and then your brain starts to say, what if? What if? Woo! That's way better than green.
Yep.
I agree.
And it keys in, it
Pretty.
keeps the harmony going versus introducing a whole new color. I'm still just using the colors that are on here.
Michael, I just found your self-critique sheet that you put in there on Google Docs. And then in my phone, I loaded the Google Docs app and I'm printing it from my phone and it's coming out perfect.
Yay. All right. So yeah, I did put a link to it on the Facebook page. So let me know if that works for you guys. If not, I'll email you the PDF anyways.
I just copied and pasted onto a Word document when I was downloading it.
Great. So
That's what I did too.
you've got options. All right. I'm loving this. This will be another one I will get back to after we're done here. But oh man, I see so many options now. So fun, so fun, so fun.
How do you know when to stop?
Never stop.
How do you know to stop today and get back to it later? What tells you it's time to take it off the easel
I
today?
get bored as I go through and paint little purple grasses for 3 hours. All right, last one. This is a scene I've painted before in previous classes. This is a wetlands in Forest Grove. Painted it actually probably like 5 or 6 times now. I just keep using. I just love this kind of, I don't want to say simple, but I love this little formation. Hold on a second. I'll grab the one I did.
Is that acrylic underpainting?
Sorry, I ran into the other studio.
Is that acrylic underpainting?
You can see I just keep using that design over and over. These are all, oh no, these two are acrylic underpaintings. And this one on the left, this little guy, I did lots of really thin transparent glazes. Oh, and we were talking about experimenting with the clear acrylic powder. So I did use that in the sun. I don't know if it's doing much, but it sure seems glowy. Pretty cool, huh? Woo.
Okay, show us that container again.
Is that the glass?
No, I just used acrylic. I would like to use glass, but it was really expensive.
Oh,
And this is for fingernail polish. You add it to
oh, right. I remember we were discussing.
clear acrylic powder, and it is so fine. I would hate to see what kind of mess it can make, but it makes the acrylics act very strange. It turns into like when you're adding flour to dough, and all of a sudden you've added too much flour, and it just kind of locks up. It was doing that, so you know, you gotta. So again, all the same design and just all these different options. Like I did this one for the demo a couple of weeks ago. And I love this, and it's so colorful and so bright, but I was like, what if it wasn't? What if it was just subtle? So
Pretty
in
pretty.
this one, basically I glazed into this yesterday. Trying to see if the glaze is dry. Can't tell with my gloves on. But
So
basically what I want,
you glazed that yesterday. That was a black and white acrylic.
yes.
And what colors did you glaze with? Because I'm loving it.
These
Indian
colors, these colors mostly. I mean, Indian yellow, probably the Hansa yellow. It's got a little bit of very, very subtle quinacridone red that I kept wiping in and wiping out, wiping in, wiping out. So what I want to do is to actually use some opaque paint and maybe I can even use this purple here. It's going to mix a cleaner color because it's got some green in it. So I've got pretty ugly. I want this cloud bank that's back here. It's got too light. So I want that to be a little darker. And then that area beneath it, I was actually thinking that could be, instead of light, I could actually darken and put a hill way back there. Like there is in real life. Here's the reference. And then, you know me, I like to make as much perspective kind of within this short area. It's kind of interesting having it all being the same dark here. But I always like to kind of blow that open by graying down these areas back here. So that's kind of what I wanted to do to start with. Can you guys see a sun there?
Yeah.
So that's just me taking a paper towel and removing, getting back to the white. So we'll see if I build that up. The same with the highlight here, as I just kind of pulled the paint away, the yellow glaze.
I like the sky that back there behind the trees. I don't know, the hill, it looks so pretty already.
Right here.
Yeah, that's me.
All right, well, no, maybe we don't. You're right.
Now, did you use that acrylic, what'd you call it? Acrylic powder, clear acrylic powder? Did you use that with this sun?
No, I did not. No. I wouldn't probably experiment this big. A little too scared. So very,
At what stage did you use that clear acrylic powder? You have to use it with acrylics?
I would. I'm afraid the oils would melt it because it's a very, very fine kind of an acrylic powder. So I don't know what that would do with oils, especially if you mix any Gamsol into it.
If it's really acrylic, it'll be completely inert to the Gamsol. Just don't mix any xylene into it.
Okay, meaning inert, meaning it wouldn't affect it.
It wouldn't affect it. I mean, it might change its consistency, but it won't dissolve the acrylic.
Good to know.
Did I tell you I used to work in a traffic sign printing shop when I was a very young person?
No.
Learned a lot about solvents and
Wow.
reflective beads.
I applied for a job like that in college and I didn't get it.
Oh, Laura got it instead.
Imagine how different your life would be today.
Thank you. Actually, I'm glad I didn't get it.
Yeah, I didn't last very long at it.
So that purple is almost too purple.
Oh,
Very purple.
Very purple. So I can mix
it's
it.
really a contrasting color, isn't it, with the yellow?
Yeah, so if I kind of blend it down, and then I wanted to kind of get a little warmer on the top of it. Let's see. Yeah, we will see. This might be a little extreme, but actually kind of looks pretty. Those colors on there with all that yellow. I'm just going to kind of move those around a little bit. The yellow underneath does seem to be kind of neutralizing that purple, so it's not quite as purple. Some white snuck on over there. Yeah, it's really bright compared to what I got going on up above. So I may have to kind of come back in and neutralize it a little more, gray it down. Or I just keep kind of slowly brightening everything. But right now it does look a little out of place.
Michael, if you were thinking outside the box and you instead were going to change the upper part of your zenith part of your sky, what would you change it to if you're going to leave the bottom?
It just matters if I want it to be higher chroma, because right now what I've been liking is the yellow and the gray together is kind of one of my favorite recent color combinations. And I really like purple and purple, yellow, purple, I mean, gray and yellow, gray and gold. And so I would, I don't know. I like that more than I like the idea of going really colorful with it. Kind of part of the reason for doing this was to have done a really colorful version and then a really subtle version of it. Subtle colors are sometimes a little harder to sell for me, but I sure like doing them. I think, I don't want to say it out loud just in case client hears it, but I think, a lot of times the more subtle is a little classier, a little more understated.
I'm liking this better than the bright purple.
Yeah, I am too.
Personally.
Just by wiping that back, it's already, because it could be more colorful down below, because this is the sky, this is a cloud, a backlit cloud. So it can be definitely more colorful.
And now you're gonna need to put that purple in the water, right?
Probably. It's interesting though, the water in my reference isn't reflecting anything besides light.
Hmm.
But I could definitely bring some of that down into the edge, and I'll bring some of that purple, but I'm gonna gray it down.
Yes.
Yeah, it does seem pretty purple. But then
When I think
I
you've got
like
it
it.
perfect.
we're
Then you
just-
said,
we're painting by committee here.
I like it, Michael. I mean, the unexpected is nice.
Right, let's just darken the base of that cloud bank a little bit.
yeah, I was gonna say, just when I think you got it perfect, you do something like this and then it's better.
I know.
I've just been saying, oh no. And there it goes. It's got more dimension. It's more interesting.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Good thing is I think I can use some of that now to, start knocking trees back.
I swear the camera is putting purple in the upper sky now.
Yeah. Trying to throw a shadow on there for you.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting how these cameras work. They just are
Well,
always,
yeah, it's
always
doing
color
what
balancing.
brains do, it's all comparative, right? So it's constantly trying they've been programmed to try to guess what we want to see or what we think what
Exactly.
we're seeing. Right? It's coloring by algorithm. I don't know if that's completely right, but
By intuition.
computer intuition.
So are you a member of any of the tonalist organizations?
Am I a member of what?
Any of the tonalist organizations that seem to be cropping up in my Facebook feed?
I showed with them their very first show they ever did.
Hmm.
At the Salmon Gundy Club in New York.
Oh, right,
It was kinda
yeah.
nice to get in. That felt nice. But no, I'm not really a joiner
Huh.
very often. Not because I think it's great that they're doing it, and I probably should. But I don't, I'll be like, oh, I'm a tonalist, and then the next 2 weeks paint the most colorful paintings I've ever painted. So it's hard for me to label my own work very much. I should probably, ask other people, but it probably just depends on whatever the last painting they saw of mine is.
Have you ever like wondered if you should have an alter ego to sell your paintings that don't look like your main body of work or whatever?
Yeah.
I always think about that. I would, if I were gonna set up a little web store, it would have to be at least 3 different painters.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of a nom de plume, but
Going under Mike O. That sounds
Okay. Yeah.
that sounds like some cool guy who is not afraid to push some boundaries and paint some abstract stuff. Mike O.
Mm, mm.
I got a
It's
number.
amazing to me how many artists are now, the only name that's out there is their weird avatar name. And that is their, that's their identity.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. One of my favorite painters, Jeremy Mann.
He's incredible.
He's incredible. Yeah. So incredible.
Jeremy Mann.
Yeah.
MANN?
Yes.
He's on Instagram, is a great place to see his stuff. But he also has a secret identity on there called Red Rabbit. And he's an amazing photographer as well.
Uh-huh.
He makes his own cameras.
But be warned, y'all, okay? Michael, you better warn him. Some of his writings are pretty.
His writings, I don't know.
Yes.
The opposite of Playboy. I'm there for the pictures.
No, his writings are just, I think they're just incredible, but they might offend some people.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think I've ever read anything he's written. And he also is a filmmaker. I mean, the guy is crazy.
Good Lord.
So I just threw a fine line of fuchsia in there just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
I'm liking that little burst of color, just a little band of color. And like,
Really adds a lot of depth to the painting.
right, just pushing those hills back. Now I don't need the mountain back there. Those trees are falling back far enough.
Yeah.
Staying on some of these grasses, and I should probably let you guys go. This is probably all little silly stuff that I'm doing now. 12:15. Let me do a little bit of warmth on the tops of these trees. A little bit on the tops of these grasses.
Michael, the sort of the fourth tree from on the left side, the fourth tree in the smaller one. Yep. Is that behind it the same shape? Is that or is that all the front tree? It's all the front tree. Okay. I thought it might be a same shaped tree behind it.
Yeah, they do get a little repetitive up here.
Oh, but trees can be like that,
Those are in the foreground. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll come back in and push these warms around and make them a little more interesting, but kind of want to test and see what happens if I warm up. So we've got light coming through here. This get red, this get redder. And I'll come back and blend these and just kind of giving myself some markers. Red. And then we can do the same thing. And get some red down.
I just signed up for the April one.
Hey, all right. You get a
cool.
star. Thank you. I've really enjoyed all of you guys in this class, and I'm only saying that so you'll sign up for this next class. Just kidding. No, I
So,
really like.
Is there an enrollment limit on the online classes?
I think we have it set at like 15 or 20.
Hmm.
So we hit, I mean, I guess it must be 20 because we're at 16, even though so many of you guys are just watching the recorded version of it when you get a chance, which is great. I'm so glad that we can do it that way. But I do love, when you can make it, seeing you and listening to you. And I learned so much. I mean, I learned about the chalk thing today from Denise.
I know, I love the chalk thing.
So I'm getting a little crazy and just kind of seeing what can I get away with color-wise here. And I can,
Well,
I can wipe.
goodbye tonalism.
Huh?
Goodbye tonalism.
Yeah. I got my purple. rules in there, and I got all sorts of stuff. But you know, now I can bring it back towards tonalism a little bit. And that's why, yeah, I mean, any of the isms that have strict rules, I'm like, oh, well, I don't do that rule and I don't do that rule. But then you go and read, like, if you do read about tonalism, every place that writes about it has different kind of what it means to be a tonalist, what a tonalist painting is. So, I mean, if you want to be a tonalist, I guess you can just say you're a tonalist until some gallery guy says you're not, or lady.
Like the Cleveland book on tonalism thinks that Wolf Kahn is a tonalist, and I just never think of him as a tonalist.
Oh, no.
His
I think-
colors are so chromatic, but I guess it depends on how you define tonalism and the word tonal in the ism.
Right. So yeah, I was even thinking about that with this. Like, can this be a tonalist piece? Because it's all just right within the green family. Right?
No, that's more monochromatic. Is that tonalist? It's got too much depth and detail and three-dimensionality for tonalism.
Michael, could you post that one on Facebook? Because I was really kind of hoping you'd get to that today.
Sure. Yeah, it's actually on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one is on there, but you know what? I couldn't find the one with the tree shadows, the forest. Did you post that?
I emailed it
Oh, you did? Okay.
in the
Oh, I
last.
would love it if you posted it. It's so pretty.
Sure. I will do that. Anyways, it's getting crazy now. Now I feel like I'm just dabbing lipstick all over everything. So I'll just get knock a lot.
How would you know, Michael?
I grew up with sisters. I'm probably just blocking this steam to try to get in here. Anyways, I keep saying I'm going to stop. It's like that, right? It's like when my family calls me down, dinner time, and I'm like, I'll be right down there. And then I get down and they're done eating and doing the dishes. Because I just wanted to do one more brush stroke. Thoughts in my mind. And then one more leads to one more, leads to one more. And on we go. And
Okay, the one you emailed to us of the forest was the black and white one.
oh, you want it with the yellow on it?
I want to see well, because I saw it in the back behind you, and I was, I'm just very curious to see how it looks.
Cool.
And the fern, you were gonna do the fern, but if you'll just show it to us later, at least.
Yeah.
So the fern is almost invisible. Can anybody find a fern? It's right here. And all I did was use it to break, because I kept it in the shadow. So
Right.
I used it to break up so that it wasn't such hard lines. And then I put another one here, again, just because the rocks were making these really hard lines.
Yeah.
I contemplated putting one kind of in here, but I chickened out. I couldn't quite bring myself to do it. I already felt like it was pretty busy in here. I'm pretty happy with most of it. What I do think is I'll bring in some of these cooler greens in here, so this piece doesn't feel so separate of that. My daughter says she hates this rock. She doesn't like this color, but I actually kind of feel like it works kind of well with what I've got going on. And then if you see really close, the edges of these rocks, I actually took my brush and broke up the edge to make a little bit of moss. Is it focusing?
Yep.
So it's
Wow.
not really hard edge, but I still don't like this dark line here. It's too weird. Probably this dark line. So still got some stuff to do, but all in all, I like it. I went and darkened these highlights back here because it felt so clumpy. Yeah, anything else you guys see really obviously in there? Yeah, the fern, that was a tricky one. I kept putting it in and taking it out because it just looked, I didn't want too much attention right here in the corner, right? So then I decided, oh, let's use the fern to actually take tension away by getting rid of some of the lines that were in there. So it's kind of like Kate's really far back trees, right? It's like you won't see it for quite a while, but then, oh, look, cute little fern. Hopefully.
But the one that's the ferns in the forest,
Oh, is that the one you were talking about? Was I just completely wrong on the picture? I'll go grab
well,
that.
that one too.
And I don't know if I showed you guys this one last week or not. Cattails.
Oh, my goodness.
So this was an interesting one where it started off very abstract. I wanted the horizon line pretty high, like the fog is back there. And then all of the trees' light is reflecting down below, like what you would see up above.
Wow.
And then get really detailed in the hairs of the,
Wow.
Did you do that with that funny looking cutout brush of yours?
heck yeah. Yep,
What's-
so
what's
yeah,
that
against,
blue in there, that little bit of blue next to the blue gray within the cattails. It's so pretty next to the yellowish.
yeah, so we have some cattails, again, not far. There's 3 different water areas that we can walk to, 4. And I love going by water. So, you know, when my wife lets me pick where we walk in the evening, if we go her way, we go up the hill, which is always tiring. But there's a beautiful forest up there. But if my way, we just go flat and go to the ponds and the creeks and different things. But the cattails are exploding right now. So I just took a bunch of photos, but I didn't like the background. I didn't want apartments and, you know, old trucks and stuff in the background. So I just took the cattails and then made up my own background.
Super pretty and very different from all your landscapes.
Yeah, definitely. So that's what I'm, you know, that's kind of why I wanted to do that creek one too. Just focusing in on the creek versus always having this kind of same design. So here's this one with the yellow. Is this what you guys are talking about with the ferns and everything?
Yeah, this is the one I wanted to see. Did you, but those, did you work on it in black and white since last class?
If I did barely, I think I added in some highlights to the trees.
Hmm. Oh, really? So all those highlights are acrylic.
Yeah, everything's
Yeah.
acrylic so far.
Wow. That's right. Yeah, that's the one that.
Let me take my glove off, but I feel like it's very shiny. So whatever that glazing paint is very, nope, still sticky.
What? That is so weird.
Maybe I'll have to take the hairdryer
Well,
to
I
it.
wonder, huh?
Or maybe I should just take a paper towel and some water and see if I can wipe off whatever.
That make a mess. You know, acrylic kind of works the same way oil does in that it relies on a slightly absorbent substrate. And maybe because you're on a solid board, there's so much medium in the tube paints that
Yeah, it's really quite sticky.
well, I have never seen that happen, not over black and white acrylic. And I use that yellow iron oxide all the time.
But I think you're right about the board. What, are you using it on board?
Yeah, it's always board for me almost.
No, I mean, Laura, are you?
No, I don't. I rarely use board. I
I
usually
bet
use,
you're right. When you said that, I bet that's it. It's the surface.
huh? Yeah, so I always use gessoed canvas.
Time for Kate
And-
Strider to come out.
Now
What was that?
I said, here comes, it's time for Kate's dryer. Kate, it was
Oh,
you
yeah.
that gave him the dryer, right? The hair dryer?
Huh? Huh. And of course, I've been a bad person lately. I've been spray painting over my old oil paints to reclaim the canvas, and then I put matte medium on it to make the acrylics adhere. It is not archival, but it gives you a nice pristine surface for your next black and white painting.
What did you spray? What did you spray over it with?
I've been using Montana Gold acrylic spray paint.
Over
which-
oil?
Yeah, I spray it over oil and it adheres pretty well. But I was just reading about using, actually, Michael, you mentioned this, it was in my notes. Shellac primer and brush that on. That
Yeah,
might
I've
work.
been using the Bullseye 1, 2, 3, like advanced or whatever it's called.
And that's solvent based, right?
And
It's
I
actually-
gesso over the top of that.
Yeah. Right. And but it adheres really well.
It says you can paint acrylic house paint over it. So I
Then
just,
you can also paint oil-based paints over it. So it's
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So I've done it where I'm painting directly with oils on top, and it's kind of a little slippery and super non-absorbent.
really, so it's not, it doesn't give you a matte surface. I think
No.
one of them, one of them does. Is it Zinsser maybe? Because I know I've,
No, that's the one I'm using as the sensor, and it may be matte medium. It just, maybe it's just so darn smooth. I don't know, because it's sprayed.
yeah. Huh.
It's not
So-
bad. It's nice. Actually, in truth, this one was done with that, and it's so smooth.
So you painted over another painting?
Yeah, so on the back, I always write what's the layers of paint that I have on there.
Uh-huh.
The Sensor Bullseye 1, 2, 3 plus.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and it makes a really beautiful, but there is a little bit of an interesting texture, or not texture, just kind of an appearance of a texture.
Well, if
Maybe from the
Yes, but-
sampler before.
if the Bullseye primer,
But yeah, look at that glow. I mean, letting that white of that primer kind of come through.
yeah, and if that sticks to the board, and then if you, in theory, can get matte medium to stick to it, then your acrylics will stick just fine.
Yeah, everything seems to stick to it, but my oils were definitely, I had to let them sit for quite a long time.
Oh, interesting.
I was able to pull them back up for quite a while.
Oh, yeah, again, because it's not an absorbent surface. Huh.
So I think I missed the class where you mentioned the 1, 2, 3, Bullseye
That was
1, 2, 3.
Before class, yeah.
Is it a spray acrylic?
You can get it in the spray. It's fairly expensive, like you'll burn through the can pretty quick. At least
Sheila.
I did, but I also had 80 panels that I was prepping of all sizes, including up to 36 by 48s. So then mostly I used a out of the can and rolled it out. I think I rolled it out first, and then I went and the second coat brushed it,
Huh.
and it dries so fast.
And
Yes,
this was the solvent-based stuff, that this is, you don't clean up with water with this stuff, right?
I used a sponge brush because then I could throw it away.
Right,
Seems like it would tear a sponge brush apart, but it's
dissolve it, yeah.
It didn't. It was great.
cool. Well, I apologize that I wasn't able to work on the one I planned on working on with you guys, but hopefully you found this to be fun and useful to see lots of different stages. You know, we finishing the first one. This one's kind of an in-between. The grasses, we sure covered a lot of ground with that. So you got to see a lot of different things. So, you know, no refunds.
Well, actually, it is really nice that you demonstrated this, because in a lot of, courses, you get an alla prima demonstration and you never see how it then turns into the finished piece.
Right. Yeah, I definitely wanted to show you the different steps and things. And like, you know, this big one back here with the yellow and everything else, it would have been fun to work on something massive like that. I have interesting thing where the acrylic paint, when it went in, I didn't blend it before it dried. I just kind of forgot about the water. So look at the bottom of the water and you can see these very up and down brush strokes.
Yeah.
I kind of like it. Like I'm tempted to just leave it as almost kind of more
Yeah.
abstract in a way. But all the mid area, the trees and everything need to be dealt with. Anyways, this will be, I wanted to sit and look at this one and think about it. And, you can tell it was on an old painting. It's got a wire on it. It's going the wrong direction.
It almost looks like there's things growing under the water.
Right, yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to show you really quickly is that also on top of an old painting with the wire going the wrong direction. I also do my underpaintings, you know, not in black and white, just this is almost like a no tan, if you can kind of think of it like that. It's just red and yellow. And then I'll come back in and recolor that, but I won't mind having some of those colors showing through as the painting progresses. I was actually contemplating painting on this one, but it's actually pretty wet still.
Is that acrylic or oil?
Those are oils. So anyways, I just had a kind of I saw an old photo from Sauvie Island and I was like, oh, I should, grab that idea really quick. It was so simple. It was a really lousy photo, kind of out of focus and way too dark, but I liked I just liked the graphic image that it made, and thought I could make up my own thing with it. So anyways, we'll see if I ever get back to that painting again. Yeah, congratulations, 12:30. You guys missed lunch. Sorry.
I had my lunch.
Okay, good. I missed lunch. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, you guys. I really do hope that as many of you as want to can join me for the next class series. Deb, what were the dates on that? Was that you, Deb, that found it?
Yeah, the dates are April the 13th through May the 25th.
Okay, so
That's fabulous.
got a little bit of time. What is that, 2 months from now, basically? So you get a lot of time to practice and get outside and try some of these techniques out there a little bit if you'd like. And then also I do have the, I think I have like 3 workshops, all weekend long workshops. If you're in the Portland area or in the Seattle area, or would really like to pamper yourself and come out to the gorge with us. It's just beautiful out there. And really
Let
neat.
us know when you're doing the one in Cannon Beach.
So that will be at the end of summer. Anton and I are talking about that. And I think we were going to do it in conjunction with a show out at Dragonfire Gallery, but I think we are going to be the winter artists instead of the fall artists. So that frees us up to do it whenever we want. So I guess open to some suggestions. Otherwise, Anton and I will get together. He's in Mexico right now. So when he gets back, we will go out painting and figure out our workshop together. So that is a lot of fun too. And that's generally longer, 5 days, all week long. But we usually lead up to a weekend weekend art show. So we'll see. Anyways, anything else, you guys? Thank you so much. If they ask you to give comments, I always appreciate getting those back. Feel free to let me know what I can do different, better, what you liked, so I can do more of that, all of those things. And yeah.
Thank you for all your time and effort.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Yes, thank you.
I really appreciate each and every one of you. You guys did beautiful work, and I appreciate you guys challenging yourself. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys in a couple of months. If not before, you guys can always reach out through email, or even if you need to, give me a phone call. I'm not the quickest about responding. Maybe I'll be quicker once I get enough paintings done that I'm very sure I've got the show under control. I'm getting a whole bunch of emails of why aren't you responding? And I don't deal with distraction very well.
And we can still keep in touch with each other on that same Facebook group.
I'll
right?
keep it up for as long as Facebook lets me. So the links will be there for you and you guys can keep sharing and talking. And yeah, let's do that all the way until the next class at least. And if everybody signs up, then I can just change the name of the group and we can.
True. Although it's nice to get rid of the cruft.
do
Oh my goodness.
All right, you guys.
All right.
I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Take
Thank
care.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
See you in April.
See you in April. Looking forward to it.